I spent 4 years and $274,000 building something my parents would never have to worry about for the rest of their lives. I did not tell a single person how I structured the ownership. I did not mention the trust. I did not explain the clause I had already filed with the county recorder's office. I kept all of it completely to myself. My brother-in-law, Derek, listed the property on a vacation rental platform 11 days before my parents were scheduled to move in. He already had a fake co-ownership agreement typed up with my name forged on the signature line. What Derek did not know was that I had spent the previous 14 months building exactly the kind of legal structure that made what he tried to do completely impossible before he ever typed the first letter of that listing. And I let him walk me through his entire plan at the kitchen table of that house before I placed 4 documents in front of him. He stopped talking after the second one. If you have ever done everything right for the people you love and watched someone treat your work like it belonged to them, type "done everything right" in the comments. I read every single one. My name is Naomi Voss. I am 37 years old. I work as an estate attorney at a mid-sized firm in Columbus, Ohio. I have spent the last 11 years of my career doing one thing really well. I help people protect the things they build. I write the documents that say this is mine, this is theirs, this is what happens if someone tries to make it otherwise. I do this for clients every single week. And 4 years ago, I decided it was time to do it for my own family. My parents are Gerald and Loretta Voss. They have been married for 45 years. My father spent 31 of those years driving a delivery truck. My mother worked the front desk of a dental office for 27 years. They were not wealthy. They were not connected. They were the kind of people who packed a cooler for road trips because restaurants were a special occasion. They never complained about any of it. They never made me feel like we were missing something. They just showed up for everything. Every school play, every graduation, every hard phone call, every moment I needed them, they were already there. I found the land in 2021. It was a 2-acre parcel on a small private lake about 90 minutes from Columbus. The previous owners had let the lot go for years. There was a crumbling foundation from an old outbuilding and about 40 feet of natural lake frontage. I paid $112,000 for it. I put it in a structure I will tell you about later, not in my name, not in my parents' names, in a structure that I built specifically for this purpose. I hired a contractor named Ben who I had worked with once before through a client referral. I told him what I wanted: a single-story home, no steps anywhere, wide doorways, a master bedroom that faced the water, a covered porch that my mother could sit on with her morning coffee and watch the sun come up over the lake, grab bars in every bathroom framed into the walls during construction, not added after. A kitchen with lower counters on one side because my father had been having trouble with his back for 3 years and I knew that would only continue. I wanted them to be able to live there and not have to fight the house to do it. The build took 14 months. It came in at $162,000 for construction and finishes. The total between land acquisition, construction permits, landscaping, the dock Ben helped me install, and furnishings was $274,000. I paid it in phases from savings I had been building for 6 years. I did not take out a loan. I did not ask anyone for help with the money. I just built it. I chose every finish myself. The kitchen counters are a soft gray quartz that my mother once pointed to in a magazine and said she thought was the prettiest thing she had ever seen in a kitchen. I cut out that page and kept it. I used it at the tile showroom when I picked the backsplash. The guest bedroom has 2 twin beds because my parents like to have their grandchildren visit and I knew they would want that space. I planted 12 rose bushes along the south side of the property because my mother has grown roses every place she has ever lived and I wanted her to have a yard that already felt like her own. My parents did not know any of this was happening. I told them I had a project I was working on and that I would tell them about it when it was done. My father asked me once if I was okay, meaning financially. I told him I was more than okay. He nodded and did not push. That is how he has always been. He trusts me. He always has. The only person I told anything to was my sister, Carla. She is 4 years older than me. We have always been close. I told her in the spring of last year that I was almost done, and that I wanted her there for the moment I showed our parents. She cried on the phone. She said she did not know how I had kept it together for 4 years without telling anyone. I told her it was not hard. I told her the work itself was the good part. What I did not know when I told Carla was that she would tell Derek. Derek Simmons has been married to my sister for 9 years. He is the kind of person who talks about money constantly but has never seemed to actually have much of it. He has started 3 businesses in the time I have known him: a pressure washing service, a dropshipping company, a short-term rental arbitrage side hustle that he talked about for 8 months and then quietly stopped mentioning. He is not a bad person in the way that some people are bad. He is bad in the specific way that someone is bad when they are always looking for the angle, always calculating, always asking in casual conversation what something is worth or what something costs or whether you have thought about the income potential. I had noticed it for years. I had kept a certain distance because of it, but I had never had a reason to do anything more than that. Until the night I was sitting at my desk at 10:47 in the evening, about 3 weeks before my parents' move-in date, and I was doing a routine check on the property address. I do this with any property I have a legal interest in. It is habit. It is professional instinct. It is just what I do. I typed the address into a vacation rental search platform. I was not looking for anything specific. I was not suspicious. I was just being thorough in the way I am always thorough. And there it was. I looked at the screen, I read the listing title, and I just went completely still. Let me tell you what I was looking at. The property I had spent 4 years building for my parents was listed as a vacation rental. The listing had 11 photos. They were the photos from the contractor's final walkthrough that I had shared in a group text with my sister and her family when the build was finished. Derek had screenshotted them. He had used them without my knowledge. The listing said the property slept 8. It listed the dock access. It mentioned the lake. It had a nightly rate of $340. And it said available starting in 30 days, which was the exact date my parents were supposed to move in. I did not call my sister. I did not call anyone. I took a screenshot of the listing and I saved it in 3 places. I emailed it to myself from 2 different accounts. I saved a PDF copy. I noted the URL. I noted the listing creation date, which was visible in the platform's metadata. The listing had been live for 4 days. Then I opened the folder I keep on my desktop labeled Property Documents, and I went through everything I had built. And what I found when I sat with all of it was something I already knew but had never needed to test. The property was not mine in a way that Derek could touch. It was not in my name. It was not in my parents' names. It existed inside a legal structure that I had built quietly and professionally and completely before the first shovel of dirt was ever turned on that lot. Derek did not know what he was listed as renting. He did not know who legally owned it. He did not know what he had set in motion when he created that listing under an address that no document with his name on it had any relationship to. But I wanted to know something. I wanted to know if he had recruited anyone else. I wanted to know how far the plan had gone. I wanted to see the fake agreement he had made before I put anything on any table. So I waited 2 days. On the second day, I received a call from a number I did not recognize. A man asked me if I was the contact listed for the lake property rental. He said he was interested in booking a week in July for his family. He had found the listing online. He wanted to know if there was a discount for longer stays. I told him the property was not available for rental and had been listed in error. I told him to disregard the listing. I did not tell him anything else. I thanked him and ended the call. Then I called Ben, my contractor. I asked him if anyone had contacted him about the property in the last 2 weeks. He paused and said yes, actually. He said a man had reached out asking about structural details and square footage. The man had said he was doing documentation for insurance purposes. Ben had given him some basic information. Ben asked me if there was a problem. I told him there was not a problem that I could not handle. I thanked him and got off the phone. I went back to my files. What I had built to protect this property is something that took me 14 months to construct, not the house, the legal structure around the house. Let me explain it the way I would explain it to a client who is not a lawyer, because that is the only way it actually matters. The property does not belong to me the way your car belongs to you. It does not sit in my name on a public deed in a way that someone could look it up, attach a claim to, or dispute in a way that would affect my use of it. It belongs to an irrevocable trust. The trust has a name that is not my name and is not my parents' names. The trust has a trustee who is not a family member. She is a licensed trust administrator at a firm I have worked with professionally for 6 years. She has a fiduciary obligation to manage the trust assets according to the trust document. The trust document gives my parents a life estate in the property. That means they have the right to live there for the rest of their lives. No one can take that from them. No family member can decide to rent it out. No creditor of mine or of theirs could attach a lien to it. No person who forged a co-ownership agreement with my name on it could claim any authority over it. The trust does not recognize informal agreements. The trust does not recognize family consensus. The trust does not recognize what someone thought was a good idea. The trust recognizes the trust document and nothing else. I also had a notarized property management agreement on file that named me as the sole authorized representative for any decisions related to the property while the trust was in place. That agreement had been signed, notarized, and recorded 14 months before Derek ever created that listing. And I had, sitting in a folder in my office, a cease and desist letter that I had drafted and had reviewed by a colleague at a different firm. It was already signed by that colleague as the sending attorney. It was already notarized. It named the exact type of unauthorized use that someone like Derek might try. I had written it speculatively when I was structuring the trust, not because I knew Derek specifically would do something, but because I know how people behave around money and property when they think no one is watching. I had written that letter as a standard precaution. I draft one for every property trust I build for a client. I simply did it for myself as well. The fourth document was the trust document itself, 41 pages, every clause I had ever learned about, refined and used for clients in 11 years of practice. It was the most complete version of a protective structure I had ever built. I had built it for people I love. That made me more careful, not less. When I realized Derek had listed the property, I did not panic. I did not feel afraid. I felt something I have felt a few times in court when I realize the other side has made a move that my client's documents already anticipated. I felt a kind of clarity, like watching a door open that I had already put a wall behind. I planned to arrive at the property 2 days before my parents' scheduled move-in. I planned to be there when Derek showed up. I did not tell him I was coming. I did not tell my sister. I just drove the 90 minutes, turned into the driveway, and parked. The house looked exactly as it had at the final walkthrough. The rose bushes were starting to fill in. The dock was still. The lake was flat and gray in the morning light and completely beautiful. I sat in my car for about 3 minutes just looking at it. I thought about my father driving a truck for 31 years. I thought about my mother behind that front desk for 27. I thought about the cooler on road trips. I thought about every time they showed up for me without being asked. Then I got out of the car. Derek's truck was in the driveway. I had not expected him to already be there. I walked in through the front door, which was unlocked. Derek was in the kitchen. He had a laptop open on the counter and he was on a phone call. He looked up when I walked in and his expression moved through 3 things very fast: surprise, something like guilt, and then very quickly the kind of smooth recovery that people who are used to getting caught do automatically. He ended the call. He said, "Hey Naomi, I didn't know you were coming out today." I told him I owned the place. I came when I wanted. He nodded and smiled and said, "Of course." He said he was just checking in on things, making sure everything was okay before the big day. I asked him what things he was checking on. And that is when he started talking. He told me that he and Carla had been talking about it. He said he hoped I would not be upset, but that they had been thinking about the income potential of the property and how, given what it cost to build, it only made sense to offset those costs when my parents were not using it as a rental. He said they had already done some research on the rates in the area. He said he had a friend who managed short-term rentals and could handle the bookings and the turnovers. He said we could split the income equally and it would not affect my parents' use of the place at all. He said it would probably generate $40,000 to $60,000 a year. He said all of this very smoothly. He had practiced it. I could hear the preparation in it. I asked him one question. I asked him whether he had already created a listing for the property. He paused for just a second. Then he said yes, just a test listing to see what the market would bear. He said he had not expected any traction so quickly and that a few inquiries had already come in. He said he was going to talk to me about it before anything was finalized. I said okay. Then I reached into my bag. I placed the trust document on the counter in front of him. All 41 pages with the trust name on the cover and the notary stamps on the signature pages. I told him this was the legal owner of the property. I told him to look at the name on the front page. I told him his name was not on it. My name was not on it. My parents' names were not on it. I told him the trust had been in place since before the first permit was pulled for this build. He picked it up, he flipped through it, I watched his face. I placed the property management agreement on the counter next to it. I told him this document named me as the sole authorized representative for any decisions about this property. I told him it had been notarized and recorded more than a year ago. I told him that meant no one else had any authority to list it, rent it, negotiate on its behalf, or represent any ownership interest in it. No one, not him, not my sister, no one. He set the trust document down, he looked at the management agreement, he looked back at me. I placed the fake co-ownership agreement on the counter, the one with my forged signature. I had printed it from the listing platform's cached documents. I told him I had a copy of this. I told him I had the original of the one he had filed with the platform. I told him the signature on it was not mine. I told him he knew it was not mine. I told him that what he had done by submitting that document to a commercial platform constituted fraud. I said that word calmly and clearly. Fraud. He did not say anything. I placed the cease and desist on the counter. I told him this had been drafted and signed by a licensed attorney at a firm I did not work at. I told him it named exactly what he had done. I told him it required him to remove the listing within 24 hours and to destroy any copies of documents that bore my forged signature. I told him that failure to comply would result in the filing being escalated to the county prosecutor's office. I told him the cease and desist was already dated, the clock had already started. He stood there, he looked at the 4 documents on the counter, he looked at his laptop, he looked back at me. Then he did what people do when every other option is gone, he went for emotion. He said that family comes first. He said he thought I would understand. He said that he and Carla had been going through something that I did not know about. He said they were behind. He said they had been behind for almost 2 years. He said he had not known how to bring it up. He said he thought this could be a solution that helped everyone. He said he was sorry if he had gone about it the wrong way. He looked genuinely distressed. Part of what he was saying was probably true. I believed the financial pressure was real. I believed the desperation behind the plan was real. That did not change what the plan was. That did not change what he had done to get there. He had forged my name. He had listed a property he had no claim to. He had been prepared to take rental income from a house I built for my parents. He had planned to do all of this before he spoke a single word to me about it. The financial pressure was real. The dishonesty was also real. Both things were true at the same time. I looked at him for a moment. Slow, and I said this. The trust does not recognize your need, and neither anymore do I. He did not say anything. I picked up my documents one at a time. I put them back in my bag. I told him the listing needed to be down before I left the property. He nodded. I watched him open his laptop and remove it. He showed me the screen. The listing was gone. I walked to the back porch and I stood there for a few minutes looking at the lake. Then I went back through the house and I checked each room the way I always do when I visit. Everything was in order. The rose bushes outside the master bedroom window were going to be beautiful in a few weeks. I said goodbye to Derek in the kitchen. I did not say anything else. I drove home. I did not feel the way I expected to feel on that drive. I had always imagined that a moment like this would feel sharp or loud inside, like something cracking open. It did not feel like that. It felt quiet. It felt like something that had been sitting at an angle had finally settled flat. It felt like the end of something that I had been carrying without knowing I was carrying it. The house existed. The trust existed. My parents were going to drive up that gravel driveway in 2 days and see a porch facing a lake and rose bushes along the south wall and a kitchen with counters built low on one side. None of what Derek had tried to do had touched any of it. It had never been in any real danger because I had built the fortress before I needed it. That is the thing I want you to sit with. I did not build that legal structure because I suspected Derek. I built it because I am a professional who understands how property works and how people behave around money and how love is not enough to protect the things you build with it. I built it because preparation is not the same as distrust. Preparation is what you do when you care enough about something to take it seriously. I built it because my parents deserved to have something that was theirs completely and legally and without any question for the rest of their lives. When my parents moved and 2 days later, they walked through every room and my mother touched the countertops and said it was the most beautiful kitchen she had ever been in. My father stood on the dock for a long time not saying anything. When he came back in, he hugged me and he held on for longer than usual and he still did not say anything. He did not need to, I already knew. My sister and I have not spoken since that day. I expect that will change at some point. I hold no anger toward her. She was being pulled in a direction by someone she trusted and she made a choice I do not agree with. That is a thing that families survive. Sometimes it takes a while. I am patient. Derek has not contacted me. The property remains exactly as it was designed to be. My parents are living there now. My mother's roses are in full bloom. Let me speak directly to you for a moment. If you are the person in your family who always shows up, who files the paperwork, who makes the calls, who handles the hard things quietly while everyone else just benefits from the results, then you already know the particular kind of exhaustion that comes with being the invisible infrastructure. And you may know the particular kind of hurt that comes when someone in that family sees your work not as love, but as an asset they can access. Here is what I want you to take from this. The best protection you can build is the one that exists before the threat does. Not because the people around you are guaranteed to betray you, most of them will not, but because building the fortress is an act of love. It says this thing I made matters enough to me that I will not leave its safety to chance or to trust alone. It says I took it seriously enough to protect it. It says I am the architect here, not just the worker. Preparation is love turned into structure. That is the sentence I want you to keep. You do not have to be an attorney to understand that. You do not have to know anything about trusts or deeds or clauses. You just have to know that the things you build deserve the same care going out as they got going in. Thank you for watching this story. I know some of you have your own version of it. Maybe it is different details. Maybe it is a different person. Maybe it is something you are still in the middle of. Whatever it is, I hope something in this gave you a little more clarity about what you have the right to protect and how. Until next time, protect what you built, and remember your worth was never up for a vote. Important note: this story is a work of fiction created for entertainment and storytelling purposes only. Any resemblance to real people, real events, or real locations is purely coincidental. All legal and financial details in this story are included for narrative purposes and do not constitute legal or financial advice.